you are joining from, and I hope you can hear me clearly. Please, we can make use of the chat so that I'm sure we are on the same page. Please, if you can hear me, just type yes in the chat box. Just say, okay, oh, great. Thanks for that confirmation. And yes, welcome everyone. I just decided to show my face. It's good to have every one of us here. An happy weekend. I know you meant to be resting by now, but nothing is actually free. There's a part of the sacrifices we make for ourselves. The fact that you are not paying money, the fact that it is free, doesn't mean it is free. You are definitely making a sacrifice, which is the time, right? And just your uh, personal development, which is really important. Imagine if you don't do it, you still not be better tomorrow. So it's always good you make that sacrifice now. So first thing, please, if you are joining with any high note taker, please, I would encourage us not to use it. Right, I will make the recording available after the session. So please, if you are joining with any AI taker and all, please, I will advise you kind of help us remove that. As I said, the recording will be made available after the session. So, another story. Once again, welcome to our financial modeling mentorship program. So, I'm going to reiterate this and say this again. This is not a training. This is not a boot camp, right? I'm not teaching you how to work. I'm guiding you how to take this step. So, which means I assume you understand when they say, oh, you need to walk from point A to point B. And all we are doing is, okay, you know what? Oh, take this first step like this, take the second step like this. Let me bring it a bit back. This is level 3 modeling. And as I said, let's build together. That's the title. So, which means we are not doing a training. If you didn't get to do level 1 or level 2, I have the recording on my YouTube channel. I think that's one of the reasons I had to drop that. For you to know, I think level 1, level 2 started around February, March or so that you can know how long it took us before we get into level 3. I'm sure so many people that register for level 3 were like, are we sure we are still going to do this? So we are not going back to the basic. We've had the startup type of model build. We've had the corporate model build. So this is really high level and advanced. We are building together. So the whole thing, yeah, you might not be able to build as I will be building, but definitely you will need to do more after the sessions, right? Watch the recording and be able to build your home. I'm just like a guidance, right? Okay. Please, if you are joining with any AI tool, please help us remove it. Please, you can see in the chat box. Please, let's take to that. You don't need any AI tool to take any notes for you. The recording would be made available. This is a practical session. This is a very, very practical session, right? So it's not as if I'm just going to be doing any PowerPoint presentation or a kind of meeting where you need to take notes. So please, let's remove that. Thank you again. So welcome. Here we'll be building operational cash flow model. This is like a granularity type of model build. And this kind of model build is always more of a management in-house build. Yeah, but at times they get to contract it to the external professional expert to also help in building that kind of model. It has different objective, but let's get started. So welcome to the session once again. This will be more, as I said, is a mentorship program, is not a training, right? So we are building together, we are rubbing minds. So there's a difference between training. This is not a boot camp. This is like a mentorship program, which will definitely be continuous. So let's build together. So which means I want you to come and have a look at how I approach my model build, how I build my model, right? Best practices. So see how we make mistake. So this, as I said, is not a training. So it's not as if I have a script. I already know what will happen or what will happen. No, I'm not the cramming type of modeler, and I love building my model from scratch. So I will also see that, which is more like the real uh, thing we face when we are building models. You get stuck, think about formula, is it working, is it not working? So it's very, very more like the way I kind of build my model. So house rules, yes, definitely no rule. That should be no, yeah, no rules, no rule. Either of the, either have it. But yeah, let's take note of the following. Please, there will be, guys, please, I'm pleading again, right? If you are joining with any AI note taker, please remove it. I will make the recording available. You don't need any AI to take any notes for you, please. Can we do that? Please. All right, so no rules, as I said, but take note of the following. Don't tell us the story of your life, please. Let's just try to ask only relevant questions. And please keep it short, right? Don't tell us about it's a mentorship session, right? Ask questions. Currently now our mic is mute. I did that intentionally. So in case you want to ask a question, contribution, just raise your hand and I can always open up your microphone so that you can talk. So please remember, don't tell us the story of your life. Just ask relevant question to what we are doing. Try and keep it short. Time is limited, right? Everyone kind of busy. So let's remember, be disciplined. Let's watch some of our phrase. It's normal for you to get annoyed. It's normal for us to disagree. Different view, and that's why the word is so dynamic. So we all cannot focus on the same thing. So yes, let's be disciplined. Let's value time. No room for excuses or pity. If you've attended my previous session, you know I'm kind of strict when it comes to let's get things done like this. Let's get it done like this. If you're not doing it, you are not progressing to the next. So yeah, the ball is in your court. It is your responsibility to shape yourself, right? So thank you once again, and let's get started. I said this is very, very practical. So no story. I believe you have prior knowledge. So we are going straight to the practical aspect of it. And let's get started with the client business case. I believe if you've registered, you should have I created a link where and that link is where we'll be uploading the files we'll be using in our sessions. So please, if you have if you've downloaded the file, please just click on your answer so that I'm sure. Let me see if I can also drop it in the chat box again. So inside our folder, we have session 1, another subfolder. And I've uploaded, I have 2 documents that I uploaded inside the folder. So let me try and share the link, the chat box again. And please, let's pay attention to details. That's like number 1 skill every modeler must have. So let me try and let me get the link again. Drop that in the chat box. So please go ahead, download the files. Download the files, right? So attention to details. When I send email, please let's make sure we try and read the email. It's very, very important, right? You have information is in front of you. Pay attention as a modeler. There's no way you can be a sound modeler without you having that skill. Attention to detail, very, very important. So please go ahead. And as I said, this will be very, very practical. And I was approached by a client, and these 2 data that we have is more like a real client database. Okay, let me see. Let me also try and open that from my hand. All right, so let me open the first one. So the first document look like this. Okay, and the second one look like this. All right, so please let's confirm you have the documents. You've downloaded it on your laptop. We currently have two documents, and now, so please, I'm going to repeat this again, right? Because I cannot, someone saying I should share the link again. So whenever I send any email, let's pay attention to details, right? Let's read. There's information there. And I said, even when you registered, from the link it was provided, right? And please, if you are joining with any AI note taker, please help us remove it. You really don't need any notes to take. Everything we are going to be doing very practical. So please, let's try and remove it. Thank you. All right. So now, as I said, this is more like a real life case. Uh, I have clients that reach out to me and they said, "Oh, Victor, you know what? We need a model." And I had to share like an information request list, and they were able to provide these two data. So the first one, let's look at the first one. So the first one, they've provided the last 12 months. Yes. Not sure why my system decided to slow down this afternoon. But okay, so yes, they've provided us three financial statements from 31st January 2023 to December. So more like 12, that's 24 months, right? So they provided us their income statement, the balance sheet, and also the cash flow statement historically. Then, at least the granularity of what they can provide for us, they provided the sales and cost of sales breakdown. I think they are selling more like a projector. This is basically startup, so let's take note of that. They've provided us the product that they sell. They're currently selling three products. So this is the average price per unit, average cost per unit, and more like the units sold. So these are more like actual data, and their sales and also their cost of sales historically. Okay, so now what they want is they want a forecast. Okay, and because it's a startup, so this is more like a normal thing that you experience where they just operating business. They don't really keep much of the data at the start of the business operation. But maybe it could be due to different reasons as to why they need this financial model. So now this is the first one, okay? And this is what they've been able to provide. And now let's look at the second one. Let's look at the second one. Okay, now let's look at the second one because we are going to decide which one are we going to use for our business case together. So you can always use the other one for your own personal practice. So here, this is another company called Build With Me. They've provided their own income statement. I think they are from January up to August 2025. So I think this one is more of like a latest one. Okay. Now this is the balance sheet, and also they provided their own cash flow, and they provided their operation line item breakdown. So this is the revenue, So at least based on my understanding of what they do, so this is more like a platform development app. So what those guys do is they kind of build an app for people to use, right? Just trying to link uh, a consultant. So let's say for example like a medical tech. So for example, right? But what them they do is they develop the software. Okay, and on the software app, you can do different transactions, right? Maybe you want to buy something, at least any type of transaction you can do. And historically, they've said, oh, you know what? They've been able to get like average transaction per user on a monthly basis, and the number of users and the total transaction. And their own is to just charge transaction fee. So you can have uh, different marketplace on the app, right? Different company can register their product, their company there, and people come in there to buy, and then they charge a transaction fee. Now they now have another section of the app. So basically, let's say for like a medical consultant, right? Then you have like clients. So people can come on the app, right, and connect to the consultant, and the consultant will provide the service for you. Okay, but for them, what they now charge is they charge like a membership subscription. So for you to be able to access the app, right, to reach to your consultant, then any cost or any transaction you do with the consultant, maybe the doctor just tries to give you like a recommendation of what you need to do, diagnose you. If you need to go to the hospital, then you can't do that. But their own is on that app, you can access those consultants. So for you to access the app, you need to pay a membership, 15 USD per month, right? And there's option where people can also pay on annual basis. So they just pay annually so that they can always access the app. Okay. And that's how they make revenue. So they have transaction fee income, and they also have a membership subscription income. And that makes up the revenue. And now they've provided us the value over from 2024 down to August 2025. Okay, so they provided us their direct costs and also the monthly operating costs and also even their salary and their personnel. Okay, so now I think this has more information as compared to the other one. So now let me now ask us, which one should we use for our business case? Should we use number 2 or should we use the first one? So let me hear from us. If you think we should use number 1, just type number 1 in the chat box. If you think we should use number 2, just type number 2 in the chat box. If you want to ask any question, just raise your hand, and I can uh, unmute you so that you can speak if you want to. So let's see. Okay, number 2, number 2, number 2, number 2. The first one. I can tell people that will prefer the number 1. Uchenna, do you have any question? Your hand is up. Let me give you permission to unmute your mic. Yeah, please, if you have any question, I've given you permission to unmute your mic. The hardest one. Okay.
All right. Thank you, boss.
Please stop addressing me as boss. My name is Victor. And
Okay.
stop
So
addressing me as sir.
I want to ask
Okay.
to better determine the one to use, right? I want to ask if the the process and the thought process behind both of them would be the same thing, like regardless of how tough or simpler the question seems to be, right? I don't know if you get my question.
Not sure I get that.
Okay,
But you can, okay.
would if for instance if we choose the number 1 file as opposed to file 2, would this be the same thought process, the same flow sort of? I don't know how best like put the
Oh, okay,
question
okay, 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 okay. Yeah,
without
yeah.
I mean
The process is the same. The process is the same.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, the process. Right. Thanks. Stuff like that. You can just type in the chat in the question and yeah, so that we can manage our time. Okay, so either we are going with number one, either we are going with number two, right? It's the same process. Yeah, it's operational model, so it doesn't mean right. Well, the good thing is at least when you have more information, when you don't have as much information, how do you get to manage that? So sorry guys that went with number one, we'll be going with number two. We'll be going with number two. I think number one is quite straightforward. So you can always use that to do your own practice, right? Because number one is just basically you have products, you have your price, you have your costs. So you're just projecting how many units can I sell, right? And which is quite straightforward. Okay. But for the other one, it's more like financial related. You have users that is really driving the performance of the business, right? You have transaction fee. So I think number two is kind of dynamic. So let's go with we'll be going with number two. So thank you all. Thank you all. So have the number one for your own personal practice, right? Right. It's always good you understand when we are doing it live. But when it's you and you alone, then how do you get to build this, right? So we have the file and we've seen what we need to get done now. So operation working, we call it operational model. Some people also call it a cash flow model. Some call it net working capital model. And we also call it headroom model, right? So yes, the output at times kind of define why we call it a particular name. But these are type of lowest granularity type of model build, right? I've seen the model where you have to build weekly. Yes, they call that short-term cash flow. So more like a cash flow kind of model. The focus is only on cash flow, how you manage your cash, delaying cash, and all those things, right? You have working capital, no, net working capital model where you just want to see how you are managing your cash. That's kind of related, right? As I said, just different name that will give for that. Then we have headroom where the company is trying to get a loan, and they are saying, oh, you know what? What's the headroom, right? How much do you think we can borrow? Okay, most times when you kind of build all those kind of headroom model, and there's also some kind of model you build which goes straight to the credit rating agency like that. So that's more like the same thing, but at times it only depends on the output. So yeah, irrespective of you are using case one, case two, this process is still the same thing. So when it comes to building any type of operational kind of model, either short-term cash flow model, networking capital model, or headroom model, uh, number one, you always need a monthly actual data. So it's always assumed to be for a business that is in operation already. So which means they must provide your actual and that must feed into your model. Then you have to go to the lowest granularity and also the input drivers, what is driving each line item historically and going forward. And now in relations to that, you also need to be able to update your actual. So because it's more like a transaction, so all this is under transactional modeling. Okay, so which means you can start a model build from December. Now maybe yes, that was at the point they have the actual, and the transaction might not get started till maybe around June next year, right? So because the process kind of take long, most times the company tends to start the model build process uh, sooner than when the transaction dates would occur. So as such, you need to be able to build the model such that by the time the transaction would take place in June the following year, right? Your model must be able to accommodate the actual from January to that period. And you don't need to start rebuilding the model. All they need to do is to just do the inputs and update your forecast start dates, and you expect the model to automatically update itself. Okay, so that dynamism must always be in there. And even for the typical management operational kind of model, right, as they are getting the actual, they are putting that into the model, and it's easy for them to continue the forecast from there. In fact, there are terms that we build in such a way that you can always input your actual and can compare your actual with your forecast. So which means you are not shifting your forecast. Your forecast will always be at a starting point. They can always do their inputs of actual, and then they can do the variance analysis. So it depends on the objective, but it must be able to accommodate actual update. Then have your forecast, and it must always be automated. So even if you are no longer there, they can always pick the model on their own. So we build the model, we hand it over to the management. At times, the forecast might not even be like their real value, because they don't want you to know that kind of thing. So most times you build the model, they give you some fictitious assumptions, and when they are done, they take the model, right? They do the updates themselves for their inputs, and they send it. So it's always like, so let's say the financial modeling team will build a model, right? Then they will send it to the corporate finance guys who will be the ones to take up the transaction and the whole thing. So you do your own part, kind of flow to someone else, and that's more like the interesting part of it. So please, if you have any question, you can always type that in the chat box, and I can always address that. Then, as I said, the key outputs is the main driver as to what kind of model are we building and why are we building this or that. Okay. So now, with the understanding of what we need to do, firstly, we have our monthly actual. At times, this can even be very difficult where they cannot provide you this. Now, but in most advanced most developed country, you always have this. But I know some of us from um, still developing country, right? Not like the developed country. It can be very hard. But you know what? The process is still the same. You need to make sure because that's the best source of information you need. So you need to be able to hack them, because everything would be questioned when it comes to building operational model. It's different from a typical startup where you say, oh, okay, you don't know what you want to do yet. So yes, we can still deal with those assumptions like that, right? Or corporate finance where you are limited to information. But for operational model, it is more like a management. You are working alongside with the management. So you you are expected to have access to that information. Everything would be questioned to the last 0% driver. Okay, so most times this kind of model can stretch up to 3 months, can stretch up to 6 months. I say, okay, what is driving your revenue? Oh, this is what we had. And someone is say, okay, no, this is really not making sense. So as I said, modeling is very practical. It's what we do every day. It deals with decision making. So now let's get started with our model build. At least I'm sure we understand our case of what we want to do, right? They've provided us the actual. This actual must feed into our model. And we are saying, you know what, going forward, so which is as I think we should go with this other approach. So the first one is, okay, you know what, they can always input their actual, and from their actual, our forecast will always start from there, anytime, any day. So I think the other one is where we said, okay, you know what, forecast will always start at a point, right? They can, so we have like a separate sheet where which we always take the actual, and they can use that to do the comparison. But for this one, we are not going to do that. What we are going to do is they can always input their actual. If they want to do their variance analysis, they can do that separately, right? So let's take it a step at a time. Once you understand this approach, the other one of forecast starting and they can input their actual somewhere, that one is quite straightforward once you understand that. So our objective now is we have the actual till this period. Let's assume the transaction might be taking place 31st December. Might be taking place 31st December. So which means we need to be able to build this in a dynamic way. So such that yes, currently all this period will be forecast. but they will definitely turn to actual by the time they have the actual data. And the forecast will always start from that particular period. And that is what we need to achieve. Now, building this, as I said, we must always automate everything, right? And now, let's get started. Are we ready? Are we ready? Are we ready to get going? So if you have any question, please ask, type that in the chat box. If you have any question before we start, please ask any question. And that's why I've taken almost 30 minutes to explain what we want to do, why, and the whole concept. I don't want us to start doing something and someone will now be asking, why are we doing it? Please ask your question now. Right? Okay, so I'm going to start with a blank Excel. So yeah, I know it might be a bit difficult for you to build the as the way I'm building. I mean, we build at the same time. So what you can do is you can just pay attention, look through what you don't understand that I'm doing. I know it can be boring, but I'm just take right. You still have, so which means if you do these 2 hours, you might need to make another provision of 2 hours for you to be able to do your own. That's why I said, okay, you know what, let's do only Saturday. So maybe Sunday, you can always use the following day to get to build your own, but understand the whole concept. Ask many questions as I'm doing it. Okay, so hi, here you have taken monthly data. Can we use annual data instead? No. As I said, it is a monthly data, lowest level of granularity. At times, if it is a short-term cash flow model, you are expected to have your data on weekly basis. Trust me. So it's a management. It is your monthly data that sum up to annual. So as such, must be at least monthly. There are cases where you have weekly. Yes, I've seen it. Maybe I'll call one of my colleagues to just come and give us uh, some brief uh, just shares like experience with us, right? Building of weekly model. How does that work? So weekly we roll up to monthly, monthly we roll up to HANA. So, but for this one, yes, you always need that monthly data. So that's why I said it's a management kind of model focus. Now, when I open a blank Excel, the first thing I do is I make sure let me save first, because this is always the best. The first thing to always do. One, I check that my Excel save. Where's our, okay, this should be level 3 and this should be session 1. Let me just create a folder. So level 3, session 1. I'm not sure why my Excel decided to be slowing down now, and I cannot. So I think the name of our model is Build with Me. Build with Me. Okay, BWM. Okay. Model. Then I call this version 1.01. Right. So most times it's always good. You keep this. Okay, yes, let me zoom out. Right. Then if you want to add like a description of what this version is, you can, it's always good. So I'll call this my template setup. Right. Let's put this space setup. So this is always good so that you can keep track at every stage what you've done, what's going on. Then I can click on. So secondly, you also need to consider your users, your clients, right? We live in a world where not everyone is using Microsoft Excel, but it's always the best option. At times you send it to clients. They might also be using Microsoft Excel, but when you send it to them, most times you drop that in the drive, right? They send that. So please, Samuel, please, can you remove your AI note taker, please? Now I can see in the chat box is saying you have 30 minutes meeting recording. Please, I've pleaded that please, you guys should remove your AI note taker. You actually don't need it for this session. Thank you. Now you guys are done diverting our attention. All right, so most times even they might be using Microsoft Excel, but because you send it to them, is on their shared drive. All right, immediately they click on it, it kind of opened directly from uh, uh, Excel online, right? And they might decide us to keep working with that. So it's always good you set. Most times, I always prefer to set it as Excel binary, right? And reason why we are using Excel binary is because most times when you are building this kind of model, you always have like a lot of information. So let me give you one example. Imagine you are building for a group, because most times this you do this mostly for a group entity. So for example, you have a group, then they have maybe like maybe they have like 10 subsidiary under them, right? And you need to model for each of them and aggregate, consolidate them. So the workbook would definitely be heavy. So, but most time when you save it as Excel binary, it kind of help you to reduce the size of your workbook, and also I think it kind of make it to work faster. Then Excel macro enable. Do we? I'm not okay. No. I'm not sure we should have anything where we need macro enable. So, but let's save it as Excel binary, right? And I can click on save. So as I said, the reason why we're saving it as Excel binary, I said for typical business case, right? You have a lot of data, and yeah, the recording will be available. Please, guys, you guys should please remove this your hey hi thing. I've said it that the record, if the recording will not be available, I would have said that from the beginning. Okay, all right. So now I've created saved my document, right? And you can see that my model name is also very short. It's not always, it's not a best practice for you to now name the name of your workbook just way too long. So most times it's always good we keep it short. That's the first thing. The second thing is I always like to preset my first workbook. Okay. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set it to my page. So page layout. Okay. And I have my page set up here. I'm sure at least we all know how to do this. So here, I'm going to set this to landscape. Some people will be like, what have you done there? Okay, so I'll go to my page layout, and under my page layout, I have my page setup. Okay, and there's this guy pointing down, basically telling me more options. So I'll click on the more option. It's going to open a tab for me. My page, I need it to be landscape and fit to 1, maybe the white, just 0. Okay, I think every other thing is fine. My margin, let me just leave that. If I need any header or footer, if you want that, but row to repeat at the top, I think I would like to have some rows to be repeated at the top. So I'll light from my row 1, let's say up to row 6. I think that should do. Okay, and I'll click on my okay. All right, so I have that set up. Let me off my video. Okay, all right. Some I don't like seeing my face on the video. All right, so I have that set up already. Then the next thing that I need to do before I get started with my model build is this guy called outline. So under my data tab, come to my outline. This guy here, the drop down option, I'll just untick, I think summary row below. Let me just untick both of them and click on my okay. Right? So basically, I'm presetting my workbook. This is always good. Now, I always like to also do another thing. Let me change the display settings of my workbook first. So I'll change it to another. So currently it's on normal. I'll change it to page layout, change it to the third one, and put it back to the first one. Okay. Now, I don't like seeing the grid line, so you can go to your view and untick the grid line. Okay. So now, the reason why I actually change the view settings is because of this page break line. Okay, so most times if you don't try this and you are done with your model build and you send it to your client and they mistakenly change the view, you just see just the page breakout line showing. So most times I always like to also preset that. As I said, I'm showing you how I build my model, how we build models, right? So I'll go to my file tab, straight to my options. then go to my advanced. So under my advanced, I will scroll down to where I'll see my display, right? So display option. So I think we should have that here. So show page breaks. I'm going to untick that, so that those lines can disappear. Then for my charts, most times I always like to also untick uh, property follow chart data points from. So I think you can tick one, but this second guy, but currently now, let me just leave both of them unticked. And what that means is if I create a chart, right, I can always copy that chart and relink it to another data without the formatting of the chart changing. Okay, so this is always good. You can spend 30 minutes trying to reformat a chart, but this will just save you from that. And I'll click on my OK. So I'm going to name my worksheet. I'll just name it so this one to blank. Okay, so this is blank, and I can always duplicate this my worksheet. Now let's call this our admin worksheet. Some people call it admin, or we call it control, right? But I think at least from what I've seen, most time people prefer to call it admin. You can also call it control. It depends. Okay. And now with this, I'm going to preset our workbook. So please, if you have any question, you can ask. Yeah, you might not be able to do it as I'm doing it, right? So I'm a bit faster, and so that we can manage time. As I said, you have another time. So let me reduce these three guys. So maybe 20 pixel. That should give me 1.44. Okay, yes. Then I can increase this guy to maybe, let me see, 200 pixel, 210 pixel. Okay, so I'm setting this up. Now, another important thing is, before I get started, I'll come to my cell style. So our cell style, right? Mostly when I build my model, because this can really mess up your workbook and just make it heavy unnecessarily. Most times I always prefer to delete all these cell style and create my own cell style. Okay, but because of time, I'm not going to delete everything. What I'm going to do is I will just try and modify what we have here. So any cells in my related to my input cells, should we do this now? Okay, yeah, as I said, most times it's always my first thing to do, but let's get started and we can always update that together. So I will assume every part of my model will start from row 8. In fact, you know what? Let me format my cell style here, because definitely I will be needing them. So now, firstly, I will right click on my input. So cell style, I will right click on my input, modify it to the color that I want. Okay. So from I assume anyone in our session know how to do this. So that's why I'm moving fast so that we can go straight to the main thing. Okay. So my custom, our inputs. Okay, no, input is not the first cell style that I need to update. So the first one should be my normal. Yes, my normal. So right click, let me modify my normal. Formats, I'll come to my custom and I will change how I want my format to show. I prefer to see them in brackets, red, semicolon, then anything is 0 dash. Okay, so for our normal, that's the only thing we need. Only the number. Okay, the fonts, yeah, let's keep the font to 10. So for the font, I'm keeping my own. So to come to my font here, I'm keeping it as 10. So it depends on the size of your system, right? But for mine, because I'm not the kind of large big font, so 10 is okay for me. So if your own system is on 11, 12, you can go with that. Okay. Then the next one, I can format my input and modify it. So format. So for our input, I want the font to, let me go to more color standard. I need this bright blue. Don't know why I'm a fan of this bright blue. So the border, I can keep the border as ash color, fill it. I think a faded blue. Let me increase the faded option. Yeah. So please, color is very, very important in your model build when you build your model. Okay. So I've changed that input. Then our link cells, modify that for our link cells. So try to be professional, limit the color. So any, let me go to my fonts. Any data that we call up, because we're going to be doing that a lot. I think I'll just put this and put, can you show us how to delete cell styles that are default? Because I've been looking for a way to undo or delete them. Yeah, so even because that's one funny thing you deal with, especially if you're building this kind of model. Because if clients send their data, you move or copy their data from their own workbook to your own workbook, because we usually have those scenarios, right, where clients just share those workbook with you, and because it's a kind of working model, they want to see all your sources of information. So most times we always end up moving those clients data and move it into our own model, and that can mess up your sales style guides. But and you just open some workbooks, you just see sales style like like millions. So most times what we do is we use a macro. So the macro will help you to clean up those sales style that you did not use in that workbook, and it will leave only those ones that are applied. Yeah, it's only macro that you can use to do. I think if you just go to any maybe ChatGPT, just type macro, or just go online, right? Macro to delete unused cell style in a workbook, and you can see that here. You might not be able to, but some you try to delete it like the normal delete process, where you just right click on the chart and you see this delete, it will still not delete. So that VBA will help you to do it. I think uh, maybe I can check my macro log, and if anyone need the macro, you can just let me know. So for the border, we don't need no border for our link self style. Yeah, that's one. It's always see those self style can be very annoying at times. Yeah. Okay. So our warning, let's leave that as red. We have our link cells, we have our input cell styles. So anyone we need, you can always come back. So to delete, as I said, right click, I can delete this guy. So I can delete some that we are not using here. Right, output, we are not using you. Calculations, we are not using you. Then my explanatory notes, let me modify that. Format, just remove that from Italy, then just make it regular. Then the color is hash. Okay, then which other one? Then we need our header. So let me modify our header. Format it, just reduce everything to 10. I don't need those big color. I can make it bold, then make my fonts this blue. Yes, border, I think a light border should be fine for this one. Okay, no fill color, click on OK. So please, in case you don't know about cell style, please, you can't check. Oh no, no, the color are not matching. Sorry, I need both the border color to match with. So in case you don't know much about cell style, you can check one of my YouTube videos. I'm sure you will see. I think we did that in. Okay, that's not the color I want for the border. Yes, okay, yes, this, and I put it there. Okay, yeah. Then my header 2, I also modify it for my header 2. I think I can keep for the font. I also keep that as 10. Can make it the same color. So please, when you are building your model, you don't think no bother for the second one. You don't have to be an color mixer. Right? Don't have to mix color. Just keep it one color. Then you can vary that one single color. Then for header 3, I think I'll make that italic. Also the same color. Border, no border for that. And I can click on my OK. Okay, so now let's see what we've created. All right. So if you want to also delete all the others, because yeah, I do that a lot. I just delete, see some of my workbook. Just don't want to see them. If I'm not using you, I can delete you. I can always recreate and things like that. So my percent, let me modify my percent as well. There's where I like my percent to show. So number, go to my custom. I think it's always good to have it one decimal. So semicolon. My square brackets, I need it in red color. Then put them in brackets. And for the one that has 0, just needed to show us dash percent. Okay, now that should work, hopefully. All right. Okay, so now I've set up everything we've been doing now is me presetting my workbook, right? And that's part of your Excel optimization whenever you are building your model, right? Okay, so now the first thing, let's I think we are saying from column row 1 to 6, at least for now. Let me just put this to from row 1 to 6. We want to make it think can go with a thick blue color, right, and go with white font. Just keep it, let's keep it simple. Okay, so our model will always start from row 8, and here I can apply this my header 1, and I can just put this general. So I need it to also, so let's have like a number, right? So which means we can have number 1 to number 2, number 3, like that, so that it's more like a chapter. But I want to automate this, so I can put my, go to max, not sure why it's showing like that. So equal to, so max, right? Then let everything start from my row 8. So whenever I copy it down, that can always, then I can lock the first one, then plus 1. So basically, what we are trying to achieve is we have the 1, which will be section 1. So if I copy that and I put it here, see that it becomes number 2, right? And that can always flow like that. Then I do the same thing. So just leave a row. So let's call this general model, general information. Okay. Then here I'll make this my header 2. So also use that same approach, marks of. Now I'm going to include my column B, right? Keep the first one constant, then plus, I think 0. That should be 0.1, so that can give us, so that can give us 1.1. Okay, so maybe about business. So put that as my header 2. Okay, so professionalism is always very good. Yeah, please always keep that in mind. So name of company. So this will always be our description. Units, just make that as hash. What part? So I can do is I can make this entire row, put that as my explanatory notes. So just show like an hash. Then put this as my input. What's the name of our business? Build with me limited. Please, if you have any question, please ask. As I said, don't let it be boring. I know it can be boring at times, right? So what we can do is, so because I'm going to replicate this admin, let me replicate this admin for now. Okay, and I'm going to call this sample. Okay, so let me delete this in sample so that at least this one can keep the header that we've created. Now in our admin, let me also freeze my panel from row 1 to row 6. Okay, I think we can still adjust that panel freezing for now. But yes, so business name. So most times it's always good. You can also create like a name manager for it. So let's call this business. Can keep it short. Company COY, company name, right? Put it in this my explanatory notes. Then copy it. Go to my name box. So basically, I'm just naming that cell company name. So which means I can come up here and type equal to my company name. That will reference to that sheet, to that cell. I can also increase the font. I think, yeah, 12 is good. Then maybe we call this admin and control. Control Shift. Control Shift. Okay. So here, this part we are going to have a model's balance check. Then here we are going to have a model alert check. So these two guys are very, very important. In fact, case where we have scenario, we can call this model model scenario, model live scenario. So we just put that by the side like that. So basically we are presetting our model. All right. Then location. This is in US. Okay. Let's put that as USA. Okay. So what are the other things we need? At least those are just like general information. Which other thing? Guys, we are building together, so don't leave me alone doing this. Okay, so which other thing? Let's say the model currency. So that will be in USD, right? Then let's have the other part. So as I said, there's always a provision for us to add some other thing. Most time when you are building it, those things might not be coming to you like that. So as they are coming, you can always go back and add. So let me copy this, put this down here. Just call this. So let's just call this model self style guide. So it's not as if it's a compulsory way of doing it, but in reality, this is how we actually build model, right? No one builds model the way you think we build it, where you know that, oh, this is the next thing I need to do. I need to do this. No, 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 no. So just find the way it's coming. You can always go back and do that. I think that's common in project finance, where you have to do one layer, you go back to other layer, and so I'm going to call this model navigation. So basically, we don't. This does not have to be too much. So model input. Okay, now let's just call it input cells, right? Linked cells, formula cells, description cells. Then maybe header 1, then header 2, then I think we create that for header 3. Okay, so here just put this as hash. Hash basically mean number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, linked here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So any data link, we have that like this. Okay, then formula 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 the normal way. The description, we call that maybe USD 1, 2, 3, just giving the description, and that will always be in this color. Header 1, call it title 1, then title 2, then title 3. So for title 1, I'm just going to put that header 1, then header 2, then header 3. Then we have this, right? So now, as I said, it's not as if there's a particular way we must do this. So let me create a cover. Okay, so under this my cover, reduce this column. Please, part of the learning is also learning speed. Yes, there's no magic to it. You just have to learn that speed. So here, let me just color this guy like a faded blue like this, but then maybe a border around it. So I'm just showing you how I kind of build my model. All right. So speed, yes, there's nothing you can do about it. Just you must have that speed. So let me put equal to our company name. Have the company name here. Decide to make that like a blue. Okay. So if you want to put maybe insert like a shape, for this shape, just want to put what the business is all about, right? So about business. Okay, can put it in the middle and can allow them to do their okay. So which means let me move this guy here. Okay, no, let me just use our. Let me push this. Okay, yes, can increase it a bit. Okay, then let me push it back. So about business, they can put their description here. Change the font to Calibri. Not sure why Excel decided to change our fonts from Calibri to this Aptos something. I'm not sure I'm a fan of it. So they can put about the business, they can put that right up here. So maybe we can do that one later. And below here, let's just put our equal to um, all rights reserve at. All right. I think we can even use our text join, but there's no need. So company name, and we can have this. I'm not sure why I like this thing so much. Whenever I see it, like all rights reserved, this is our property. This is our property. Okay, so we can put the business description there. One other thing I always like, so from the input, okay, so from this cover page, we can have a table of content. Okay, here, let me increase the index a bit. Okay, so we can always add to this, but definitely we are going to have our input. Let me reduce this. Let me see if I can. Just trying to make it look good. Okay, yeah. Then here we can have our inputs, calculations. We can always update this as we go on, right? So calculations, then maybe our financial statements and all. We can always update that as we go on. So as I said, this is more like how we really build model. So not as if someone crammed it somewhere and now start applying it. So for this one, okay, yeah. So let me move it down a bit. So model self style. Okay. Let's put this centrally. Right. Just so that you have that cover page. So as we go on, we can always add to it. Now for my model navigation, it's always good I put like a description of what they are saying. So inputs, these are, let me call this hard coded values that can be changed. You can always use any description of yours. So let me reduce the font. Okay. Then these are for my linked. I just call it call up data from call up values or data anyone. Call up value from another cell or worksheet. Then formula. Just call it results. So if you're starting with small letter, lower cap, let's keep it up. Then results or output. Let's call it okay. I think results should be fine. Results or outputs of function or calculations. Right? Description just which state at times I can be short of words. This is what you really call short of words where you don't know what to type again. So description, let's just give yeah, well, maybe description we are using the same name again, but yeah, I'm short of words now. So descriptions to data in a row. Yes, let's use it like that. So type 1. So this is section header, right? Then this one may be subsection header. Then the third one will now be sub. I just call it third level uh title, third level section of a section. Anyone, yeah, just use your one. Anyone you want to use, right? And that just kind of give us that subscription, that description, so that they can also understand what we are doing. Now about business, we still need more information in the admin, but we can always come back here. Okay, so about business, I think let's have our constant value here, constant data. Okay. Then under constant data, let's have our basic things. So firstly, model currency. So let me look at the historical data they shared with us. They are all in absolute value. So should we present this in absolute value, or we should present this in 1,000 units? Because we present this in 1,000 units, that will look, let me say, the net profit divided by 1,000. Well, what do you guys think? I think we should present it in 1,000. So most times, so because this is just more like a startup, most times you are dealing with companies that are more like a public company. So you always see those values like that. So I think it's always good. Let's have it as 1,000 units. So USD 123, right? And I can name this currency. Just name it model currency. Model currency. I'll go to my name box and I'll name the guy model currency. So here, next one, month in a year. But definitely that will be 12. So I can also name this month a year. So I said it's all so when you create like a name manager, it's always good you put that name beside it. It's one of the corporate best practice when we build model. So months in a year, then which other constant information do we need? Right, basically at this data that you know that they cannot change irrespective of anything. So let's say month in a okay, no. So let's go with a quarter. So quarter in a year. Quarter in a year. How many quarter do we have in a year, guys? Is it 4 or 3? So QTR. QTR. Okay. We want to type it in full. Let's leave it like that. QTR, then month in a quarter. That should be 3, right? So 3 times 4. Okay, yeah. So month a quarter. So I have that here. Which other thing do we need? So any other thing we need, we check that. Then we need another thing. So I'm going to call this tolerance level. Now, some people like, what is tolerance level? So most times, right, because when we are dealing with companies that really have a lot of data, right, and especially the values kind of, they deal with large numbers. There's always this rounding thing that usually come up when you're trying to balance your balance sheet. So what we just need to do is to set like a level of tolerance. So if it is lesser than the level of tolerance, then it is fine, right? So we know that Excel rounding error can be funny at times. So I think let's set this as 0.01, considering our value will be in 1,000. Okay, yeah, we can call it tolerance. So the 0.00 something that is to call indifference, this will just help us take care of that. Okay, so we have this. Then the next thing, let's now have our timing. Okay, so let's put all this here, and below, I think let's just always leave one row before the next header. So here, I'm going to call this our timing or timing and timeline. Okay, yeah, so I'll call this timeline. I'm going to call this timeline. So this one, let me call this monthly timeline. Monthly timeline. So I'm going to also have the annual timeline. So I'm going to start date here. So this is where the whole, as I said, this is the admin. This is more like the engine room where everything will feed into any other aspect of the model. So in case we need to change anything across the model, it will be easy for us to change it here. So there we have the end dates. But before we do this, we need to have one model starts date. Model start date. I think our model will be starting from, so currently now we are from January, right, which is the actual. So that's where our model will start from 01/01/2024. Format this to date. Okay. Then let's say last actual date. So our last actual date, that should be 31st August 2025. I'll put that here, right? So we have the start date, we have the end date. Okay. So now let's look at, now we need to definitely expand our model. Let me see, row GH high. I think let's start everything from J. Yeah. So let me see, 1 to 3, 3 columns is fine. Okay, yeah. So let's start from J. We start from J, okay. Yeah, let's start from J. So equal to my model start day minus 1. Okay. And let me put this one period counter. So we need at least every point we need, so we need 60. So our forecast 60 months plus our current actual of 24 months, right? So that's 84. So let me just create a series of 84. Should we make it 84? Okay. I'm just going to my own tab, then my fill series. Do we need that rows or columns? Which one? Let me see. So let's just have like 100 period. Okay, I know. I don't know why. Since I've been learning Excel, you see this few series of the rows and column. Okay, so I think 100. Okay, yes. So now what I'll do is I'm going to close my workbook from here. Just leave a row after that. Okay, and so my start dates equal to my period end date plus 1, then equal to e dates, my start dates, just 1. That because the 1 is 1. Our model granularity is 1. We can also decide to create a name range for that, but don't have to do. So let's do that every time. Then let me copy everything straight. Okay. Now, because I'll need to adjust my free panel. Okay, so it's to start from column K. So let me change that and update that. So this is not 1. This, yeah, this is supposed to be 1. And this plus 1. Okay. So we have up to, let me increase this one. Okay, let me allow the last period to also get to December. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay. So the last, so basically we are just making provision for additional period beyond our forecast period. So most times, at least from experience, it's always a time frame of 3 years. Yeah, but we always make sure we leave the model to accommodate up to 5 years. Okay, so we use, that's where timing come into play. Okay, so now we have this, then this period counter, and then we need, let's have a month. Let's have we call it 12 months counter. 12 month counter, and that will be equal to just using my month to extract, I think, the end date. And what that would do is that will give us 1 to 12, 1 to 12, 1 to 12, 1 to 12. So see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So after that 12, the next one will go straight to 1, right? 1, 2, 3. So it keeps counting. The next 12 goes to the next 12 months like that. So even if your model date change, that will also automatically update. So most times it's not always starting from January. Then let's have our annual. Let's have our annual counter. Okay, so basically what we want to achieve now is the first 12 should be 1, the next one 2, so just keep going like that. And I think we should use count if to be able to do that. I said, please, if you have any question, ask. I said, build with me, right? this. After this, you see everything I'm doing, you're still going to do it too. That's why I said the recording will be made available so that you can watch it and recreate your own. You are building with me. Okay, so count if, I think count if should do it, right? From this period, put my double quote. So basically when I copy it across, it will always start the count from my first guy. Right? I hope I'm correct too. So the criteria should be the first guy, right? Now copy that across. So that should give me 1, 1, 1, 1 up to 12. Then after that, you see the 2. So it's always good you check your model because it's all garbage in, garbage out. Let me reduce this first 3 column that I left blank. So I can zoom out very well for us to see. So the next one, we start from 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Then the next one, year 3, year 3, year 3, year 3. Then the next one, year 4, year 4. So currently now, oh, this is way too long. Okay, wait. Well, the first 2 years. Okay, but don't worry, we'll get to that where we set that such that we have timing for our forecast period and things like that, period counter. But for now, 10 years, almost 10 years. That's too much. Let me reduce it to, let's say, actual of 2. Okay. So at every point, the model should be able to take up to actual of 3 years. Let's assume that. And also the forecast of 5 years. So that's typically it. So yeah, so let me reduce this, guys. We don't have to just create unnecessary space. But if you prefer, you can always leave them blank, as I said. There's always option to close it. Should we just leave it? I think we should leave it. Yeah, let's leave it. Let's leave it. So we just added the additional 1 year to that. Okay. So now let's have our actual. So actual flag, right? Actual flag, and we have our forecast flag. So these two guys, they're very, very important. Now, at least based on experience, right? I've seen cases where you always have to separate PR. So maybe they have P&L to particular period, but they don't have balance sheet up to that particular period. So most times you always have to have different flag for both of them. But P&L will take this. Then we have for balance sheet. Yeah, for the formula for count if. So what that is doing is I'm just saying equal to count if. So let me do that again. So count if count. I know there are some way the people tends to use this, but I always prefer this simple. So count 1, right? Put my I'm not sure double something, right? By shifts this semicolon. Okay. Now I said I'm keeping the first row, the first cell. I'm locking that. Just keep the column. You can use absolutes. Then the criteria is what? My criteria is also that same cell. Close the bracket. So basically what I'm saying is by the time I copy this, okay, so it's highlighting everything. So it's saying 1 here, it's saying 2, right? It moves to the next one, it's saying 3 in the series of data sets. So when it gets to 2, right, it will always go back because it's starting from this starting point and we had 1 already. So which means the next count will be this second one will become 2 and just keep counting like that. Okay, now for the actual flag, right, I can bring my last actual period here. Okay, so because I'm calling that, I'm link that, so I'll link that here and I'll say equal to this my period, my ending period, as long as you are lesser than or equal to, I think, lesser than or equal to this guy. So let me lock my row so that I can always reuse the formula. It's true. Then just use my end function. Some people prefer to use if, but I'm really not a big fan of if. So actual, we expect this to count up to 31st August, right? Which is correct. Then this will just be equal to, we can use just not, well, Yeah, I think that would be better. So, well, you can, because you also think about your users when they want to use the model. So they might just put date that's not matching. So you always expect our forecast to start from this period. So I think not should be able to do that, right? Okay, yeah. So let's just equal to not this guy. You can multiply by 1, or just use the hen. So hen function just help you to return 1 or 0. So, and that's whenever there's no more actual, then the next period becomes forecast. Just simple as that. And if you want to format it, yeah, you can use our formatting cell styles. But do we really need to do that? Well, let's just keep it professional. Yeah, but most time, yeah, it's always good to do like conditional formatting so that it's visible. Let's see if we can do that. But adding all this conditional formatting at times can make your workbook just heavy unnecessarily. Again, so if it is 1, customize, I think we should go with a few. Yeah, it can kind of make your model look good. Well, the number, I don't want it to show any number, just put my 3 semicolon. Let's we might revert back to what we want. So it just kind of look like this. 1 1 1 1 then the other. You know what? No need. Don't let's add conditional formatting. You can just might make our Excel large unnecessarily. So the same thing here. For now, let's assume that we are, but as I said, I'm just thinking at least based on different cases we can come across, because there might be the last actual for P&L, which will be different. Maybe because yeah, most times it's always easy for them to have actual of income statement, right? Because management, but balance sheets most times it's always they always have the auditor coming in try to have the accurate value. But for now, let's assume both of them, but at least so that I'm just thinking, don't let me overthink it, right? But there are cases where we have things like that. Okay, all right. So now the next one, we need another thing, which will be like a quarter flag, right? So we need a quarterly counter. We need a quarterly counter because most times there are some of the metrics valuation, right? They kind of evaluate them on quarterly basis. So they look at the quarterly basis, they look at the annual basis. So most times it's always good you have that quarterly basis. Then we need some fact. This is even very good. So now let's have some key important flag. Let's call this year end of the year flag. So because when we want to do some calculation like tax and some other things, we might need to use some of these. So equal to, if my period counts, right? If my period counts, yeah, is equal to the month a year, which means it's basically equal to 12, right? So it should give us, I'll put my hand in front of it, and that will give us, so by the end of December, that becomes 1, right? By the end of the next year, it becomes another 1, right? So there might be some expenses where you need to incur at the first of the year, at the start of the year, or at the end of the year. So let's see this one. So this will be start of the year. So for the start of the year, equal to, so I think I can copy that same formula for this. But this time I just put equal to 1. So there might be some expenses which we need to incur at the start of every year. There's some that will be at the end of every year. So as we start model build and we need more flags, we always need to come back here. Then I said we need that quarterly flag. Okay, so now let's see which formula can we use to get the quarterly flag. So guys, we are building together. You guys should not leave me. Only me. So quarterly flag, we need something like, so basically saying 1, 2, 3, 4. So the first quarter will start in this period. I think mode should be able to do that for us. Mode, this period. I think period counter should be good, right? Yeah, we can still use the 12-month counter. Then it should give us, which is quarter in the period, right? I think the year, quarter a year. So that will give us stroke years. Then and said guy, if this guy is equal to 0, then give us 1. If not, it should give us 0. So hopefully that should work. So we can see quarter 1, quarter 2, then quarter 3. Now this should give us 4. See, so this should not, so this should be quarter, month in a quarter, month a quarter. So as I said, it's always good. So as you are building, you always check, because see, model is garbage in, garbage out. You put in a mistake, you get the result of that mistake. So it's always good. 1, 2, 3, yeah, 1, 2, 3. So at least in a year, you expect to see 4. Very good. Okay. So now let's also create the same thing. So we need for our annual timeline. So annual timeline. And what I'm going to do is, let me keep this guy. Let me just copy this guy. At least, like, it's always good to work smart. Up to this guy, I'll copy and insert them as a paste here. So now this time I'll change my hand date. My hand date will now be months a year, right? Month a year. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think we created for 9 period. Yeah. So every other thing here, we delete that. Now, we have 2 styles when it comes to building this kind of model. So one is where we have both the annual, and let me show you what I'm saying now. So currently now we have input separately. We have monthly, so we have monthly separately, and we have the annual separately. Okay. Now, because most times the data can be very, very, like, can be very, very bulky. So, and to reduce the number of worksheets that we use, what they usually do is, I'm going to create, let me add additional, let me see how many, that's 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. So what we usually do is we put both the annual and monthly, we put them together into one. No. So we put them together into one workbook, right? So let's, at least we both agree before we get started, so that you understand the reason. So basically what that is saying is, you see this annual will now be like this as well, right? So on each worksheet, they can always view both annual by the side, and they can view the monthly by the side. You get, and this basically, we're just trying to manage those data. So which means you do everything on monthly basis, you have it here. Then by the side, you also have the annual by the side. Now let me now ask us, should we go use this approach, or we should use this second approach where we have monthly data sets separately, and we can always have our annual output somewhere else? What do you guys think? Okay, so someone suggested that we should use the second one. So where we have the hand, so it's easy to see the annual here, which means all our worksheets, we have this same structure: monthly, annual first, then monthly by the side, and that can always sum up. Okay, so someone said separately. Okay, how many do we have? Yeah, let me hear your thoughts. So second, separately, separate, monthly data separate here, because whilst this could be hard for some people to read through, but yeah, we use this a lot, right? Just also us trying to manage Excel efficiency. Okay, yes, Frederick, let me unmute you. Okay, yes, Frederick, you have the floor. Unmute your mic, please.
Okay. Hi, Victor. Good
Hi,
afternoon.
Frederick.
Please confirm you can hear me.
I hear you clearly.
Okay, sorry, I just have a question, right? So,
Okay.
personally, and then what I've seen people do is there are different tabs. Let's say there's a monthly tab, and then where everything monthly is done, there's a quarterly tab, and then there's an annual tab. So that gives you 3 worksheets, right? So, but I see you're trying to do everything in one worksheet. So, is there a best practice that speaks to this, or is just personal decision, or maybe to reduce the weight of the worksheet here?
Okay, thank you for that. So, and that's one interesting thing about uh, financial modeling, right? We it's flexible. You're allowed to do it the way you want, right? So, one for workbook management, okay, most times we always prefer to have it like this. Now, the reason why it's easy for us to do it like this is one, for in developed countries, definitely you expect your client to also be very sound. So, which means people that will be using the model, they understand it. It's easy for that they can easily read it when they see income statements and they know that the first period is annually. Yes, so we have like a timeline. So you just type like annual and they can see that, and they know that by the side monthly kind of spreaders. That also helps us manage the workbook, because like I said, imagine you are building for, so if you are building for like a consolidated kind of model, we cannot use that other approach. You cannot use the first approach. We always use this approach because you are building for 10 subsidiaries, right? And you consolidate them. So you can't have monthly separate, annual separate. So most times we use this approach. Okay. But yeah, I know most times, so because of your users, you also think about your users, how easy will it be easy for them to understand? Right. I said, yeah, they are in hurry, they are not even looking at the timeline and they are misinterpreting the data. And that's one of the reasons why they will say, okay, you know what, have it separately. So most times it always depends on the client and also depend on uh the 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 how much work you are doing, right? For at least this is just only for an entity. Yes, we can separate it. But if you are not doing it for entity where you are doing it for at consolidated level, you have almost like 10 subsidiaries, you are trying to consolidate together, build for each of them. We always use the second approach. Okay, so for this our own, we are going to use this approach. Let's separate it at least, and and for you to see that, you can see that in the chat box. Some people are saying no, let's have it together. Some people are saying no, let's have it separately. As I said, it depends on your users at the end. But for this one, I think what we are going to do is we're going to have annual separately. Every other thing will follow monthly. So let's let's keep it as that. Yeah. Sorry guys. Sorry guys. Your opinion is valid. But yes, let's go. Let's go with this. Okay. All right. So this one I don't need my 12 months counter. My period count is the same thing as my annual counter. So start of the year. Okay. Let's see. Why is it not? Did I not log this guy? My actual. Okay. I'm just trying to be lazy. Lazy. A good. A lazy. A lazy. They said a lazy modeler get things done faster. I'm not sure who crafted that. All right. So I think I've shown my laziness skill. So big cheers to me. All right. So for the annual, so because let me see, first, yeah, because 21st from the annual view, uh, actual is 31st. So which means this guy would be both actual and forecast. So that's why the forecast is shown here, and that's one of the reasons why you cannot do this on annual basis. You just have to be monthly. Okay. So now that we have this, let me see. So our row is from column A to DN. Let me go to this guy. dhen, and I'm going to come to my dhen, and yes, from here, let me check again to be sure. Okay, so I can close my workbook from here. Let me copy this guy. Let me copy it across. Yes, yeah, the lazy modeler get things done faster. And that's what I'm doing, but yeah, that's what we call smartness. So here, I'll call this my start date, my end date, at least those data that we need, end date, period counter, which other one do we need? Period counter, annual, we'll call this annual counter, then which other one do we need? So maybe we call this let's call this timeline maybe. So what we want to achieve here is we just let me create a timeline here, so we can have maybe I'm actual, maybe I'm forecast and things like that. So below this guy, copy this, put this below, so I can call this list and checks. Okay, so I'll call this our list. So let me start from here. So the first list I need is actual, then so actual is 1. Let's call it actual is 1, and forecast is 0. Should we do it the other way? Actual should be 0, and let's make forecast 1. Let's put both of them like this. Okay. And what I want to achieve here is equal to, if let me use my forecast flag. If you are equal to 0, then give me actual. Keep it constant. If not, you should give me the forecast. Simple as that. And that can show. So as I said, just to reiterate that if you are dealing with group kind of model build, right? Yes, you might not have that enough worksheets to now be saying monthly for each will be separate, annual for each of the subsidiary will be separate, then get to the consolidated level, still doing monthly separate. No, so what you just do is you just put both the annual and the monthly, you put them together. That's more like the best practice. So it's basically not saying if you are doing it, put the monthly separate, it's not a best practice, but it's just that you're able to manage your workbook and data, right? And also gives like a view of everything at a glance. So they can go to subsidiary 1 and they can see both the annual and the monthly at a go, right? On one single worksheet. Okay, so we can put our timeline. Let me see any other thing we need. So equal to, so this, everything will link from this guy out to all the workbook, period counter. That's normal 1, 2, annual counter. So this my annual counter, I'll just type. Okay, let me just leave this. Do we need, no, don't let's put annual counter, because that might be confusing, Don't want to be confusing. So let's just try to, I think let's put a 12 month counter here. 12-month counter, then timeline, one for actual and one for forecasts. We can move that across here. So yeah, so we can even format this guy such that those with actual, in fact, you know what? That's not a good practice. That's not the best practice. So let me delete this list of actual. That's not a good practice. So this should be what we should use. Let's use formatting. It's always the best way. So equal to, if my forecast flag is equal to 0, then give me 0. If not, it should give me 1. Right? Then we now format this 1 and 0 to what we want. So this is always like the best practice of what we we'll do so positive. So positive should make it forecast, right? Then no negative. So then for the 0 should be actual. So yeah, so this all is more like the best practice. This also help you limit the uh, use of additional cells. Now you see now that I've removed those two cells that we created as formatting and everything. They just make it easier for us. So let me also apply that same formatting. So it just kind of appear like this. And if I want to apply my conditional formatting, I like says equal to. So if it's equal to 1, and if it's equal to 0, then maybe just custom. So I just want it to maybe make it, let me see, a fill, or maybe a lighter blue. Let me see how that would look like. Let me see. Okay, okay. Let's see that. Okay, so formatting has disappeared. So I need to manage my conditional formatting. So format the number so that the number is also given that forecast actual. Then even font should be white. And okay, apply. Okay, yeah, so that appear like this. Okay, so I hope we are making progress. So you can see just ordinary setup. see the see the time we've spent on this. But yeah, as I said, this also the way I build models. So there's not as if there's any I'm doing any magic. Okay, so now let me link everything will be linked to the admin, which is this guy. I just did that so that I can copy the format. So 12 months. Then actual, let me link that. Okay, I'll copy that across and also lock my range from here. All right, so I think we are making progress. We are making progress. We are making progress. So this become our sample, and here I can just move this guy here and call this my input. Call this my input. Okay, and every other thing we need to do. So the next thing is for us to bring in this guy. So now part of the best practice is before you move any worksheet into your model, it's always good you check the format cell styles. Make sure that there's no additional cell style in that workbook. Now, if there are additional cell styles, we have a macro which you can use to clean up this workbook before you can move it. So it's always good you look at that there are no, aside the default Excel formatting, make sure that there are no other one there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this to historical. So maybe I'm going to call it input. High represent input. So I'm called IST, and I'm going to create a copy. Right. So as I said, it's always good you check so that it does not mess up your workbook. Okay, yes. So by the time I come here, check my formatting, you can see that I brought this number 2. So I can delete it. But assuming I've used the macro to clean it up, yeah, sure that should not happen. So so we are going to create like a section. I'm going to call this our input. And that will always be here. Let me make the color maybe ash. Right, yeah. So let me remove the grid line, and I can always add a statement say this worksheet is left blank intentionally. I'm not sure why I'm getting bad at spelling nowadays. But I hope I'm correct. Sure. So red now, which is another concept when we are building our model, right? So you always need to be careful with colors. Okay, yes, Latif. Let me give you permission to unmute your mic. Yeah, please unmute your mic. And so now it's always good because based on at least understanding of colors incorporate to what
Good afternoon.
and it's okay. Hi, Latif. Yeah.
Yeah, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, please. Go ahead.
So concerning that checking of self style, if there's an additional self. So what about when maybe that particular format is merged or it's accoded in that sense? Is there is there will you see it in that self style, or you still have to check this merge of it in there? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but it's always good you check the workbook itself, right? Where you see this and you see that oh, they are like unnecessary cell style there, right? You can just go on as I said, we have an AI tool now that just type it macro, just go online, macro to help you clean unused cell style in Excel. So you apply that to clean this workbook first before you move that into your own workbook. Now, if you move it here and it still end up showing here, right? Try and delete it. And if you cannot get it deleted, then it becomes all the best to you. You just make your workbook heavy, but there's really nothing you can do, right? But I'm sure we have those macros, something I've come across very well.
I'm sorry. What I'm saying is, if it's merge, am I going to notice like will I know in the cell style, or I still have to go for the merge part?
It will show now, for example, in this client workbook, there's an input sales style. You can see there are headers and all. So immediately I move it into my workbook, right? Because I only modify my input. You see that my input is in here. Why disregard the one coming from the workbook I'm moving and stuff like that. So it's only when if it's different, but if it is the same, it's definitely going to merge that together.
So I'm sorry for disturbing. Yeah, I
Yeah.
experienced something like that before. That when a particular format is like merged in that sense, and then when you are removing the merge, some data might lost, or you might not see some data at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So is there a way you can do that you will not mix out any data even if you merge it in that sense?
Sorry, man. It's part of it. You have to do your cleaning yourself. So as it the other option is where we just use a macro to say oh, cell style that are not applied, that are not used at all in the worksheet. So yeah, it's part of the experience. You see that you delete the cell style, and your data is scattered, and you have to go back and do it. So yeah, it's part of it. Sorry, man. All right. So as I said, we have a color concepts when we build models. Now, it is at least it is basic understanding that whenever we see red, we especially in finance space, right? You believe red represents like a loss or a negative stand position. So yeah, I see people be in fact I used to do it before. So where I kind of I don't know why I like using red, especially that deep red, but I think best practice you most times is always not good because unless you are stating otherwise in your model that oh negativity I think we forgot to even do. So it's always good we put that here. So I'll call this part now that I'm saying it. So it's always good when you build your model, you call it model conversion, model data or value conversion, right? So you say positive values, then negative values. Now, at least based on our financial modeling best standard, is always saying when we build model, we should always put the value, everything should always be in positive. But in real business case, at least working for a company and all, it's always not that. It's always the other way around. They always want to see anything you are deducting, put it in that negative sign. So that it's always good you state that. So which means something like this, right? You need to state that in your model. Whereas in, at least if you want to write financial modeling exam, they always tell you put everything positive. But corporate world practice, no. This is more like what we usually see. Okay, so it's always good to state that in your model so that it is understandable. So which means red expected represent everything negative. So as such, try not to use that red in your model and any part. So I'm going to modify this my warning color and just change the font color to something like, I think something like orange would be better. Yeah. So uh said, no, we keep learning every day. As I said, I always be like a fan of red color. Previously, I've seen my font too to be red, but it's always not. I think some people have mastered color usage and stuff like that. So they say, hey, you know what? No, don't use red. Anytime they see that red, they believe it's a negative, represent a loss and things like that. So it's always good we keep to that best practice. Okay, so now we have our historical, and you can even see from here now, at least based on the formatting we have in this, from coming from the client, you can see that their negative is not in red, it's just in brackets, right? Yeah, I've seen some people where they prefer to see, they don't want to see red, they prefer to see just that negative, that loss in brackets. So it's just a very dynamic corporate space we are, and most times companies' preference is always very, very important. There's some company that even negative, let it be in the black. They don't want to see that red. There are some that will tell you, put that red so that they get the message immediately. Okay. All right. So I think we are making progress. So now we have our input. This is our input. Let me name this to input. Assumptions drivers. Okay. Now for our input, I think we need to start with our macroeconomic data first, right? And just call this price and cost. And let me just call it inflation factor. Inflation factor. So I'm going to call this our cost inflation, and then we have our price inflation. So now most times when we are building this model, definitely we need to have access to those information, right? Because we are building a monthly model and that must also reflect. So for now, I'm just going to put this guy in here as input, then apply my percent format. Put it all as 0 now. Okay. So it's because I formatted my charts, my percent. So if it's negative, you just give me this in this format instead, not blank. Don't make it blank. So for the actual, which is known for now, right, we can decide to blank out the actual period. Okay, so which means we need to create, which I forgot. Let's create one cell style. Let me do for one that I can duplicate. Let me duplicate one of these guys. Let me modify it. No. Let me just create let me duplicate my inputs and let me call this blank or blocked or anyone. Let me call it blank cells. Blank. Format it. And the only thing I want it to be is to have a fill of like ash color. The border should be white. Then click on OK. Then I don't need the number formatting. So I can delete this guy and put it in here. Right. Let me go back to my cell style and let me add it. So what that is saying is call it blank cells. So which means these are intentionally. Okay, someone is asking a question. Victor, I notice you don't like using green for link cells. An observation which can be wrong. Yes, so as I said, I think Excel is even now doing one good thing. So they've made some good updates. As I said, one about color choice. If your company they do more like using that concept, yes, you can go ahead with it. So it's not like a yes or no. So now Excel has even introduced something we call eye contrast only. So which means I'm in this cell. If I switch on my eye contrast only, you see now basically what Excel is telling me is that these are the best color choice that I can use in this cell that will make sense and will be visible enough. Get what I'm saying? So so if I switch this back, if I switch it off, they are all my colors, right? If I switch it on, Excel is by itself is telling me that these are more like the proper visible color that I can use. And you can see that it's only deep green that we have, right? And it will kind of look, I don't know, it will look. Let me try and see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Because as I said, color mix is very important, and I decided to go with green for this one. Yeah, it's fine, but it's looking out of the color mix thing you get. So it's not as if there's a rule or a must do it this way or do it like this color, the color of your choice, but try to be very professional. Always good you move it. So you can see now that the whole color that I have, aside the worksheet name, we actually stick with blue, and black. Right? Then we are just all we are doing is we are just varying the color of the blue. Light blue, deep blue, this and so you can vary that color. It's kind of give like a professional look when you are looking at the model. It's comparing it to seeing color red, color blue, and others. So you actually don't need to do that. Yeah, I know our financial modeling standard is saying you must use this color and color, but it's not a do or die thing, right? So okay, so now for the inflation factor, I think for now, just put it as 2.1. Yeah, we always have sources of data where we get all the forecast monthly uh, inflation factor. So for the price, I would just put that as 2. And that can flow like that. So you always have access. You just need to get those information for the inflation. All right. Then for our tax rates, right? So maybe corporate tax rates. Just copy this guy. Okay. Then think the business is in US, and I think let's just put it as 21%. So we can always come back to also reconfirm some of these assumptions. As I said, there's always like a data source where you can always get all this information from. Okay, so which other input do we need? Please. All right, so for now, we can always come back to the input. So the next thing I'm going to do, so high input, so which means any text we put, I think we can also make the color, I think I'll prefer to go with the light blue color for our inputs. All right. Then the next section should be our calculations. So I'm going to call this calc, and then we're going to have our outputs. We have our output section. Okay. So these become our calculations. We call it C calc. So we decide to have different calculation worksheets, and that will automatically take care of that. All right. So now, which is what I would now want you to do against our next session, please. I'm going to call this financial statement. Okay. I'm going to call this income statement. So which means I expect to have our income statement. We have our balance sheet. Okay. Then we're going to have our cash flow statements. So cash flow. statement. So this is more like your own activity against the next session. Sorry, I'm not going to give you these calculations workings. I'm not going to share my workbook with you. Yeah, right. You are build with me. That's what I said. So I'll share the recording with us immediately after the session, and you have to use this to create your own, including the activity. So this will be, then below it is where we are going to have our calculations. Right. So basically what we are trying to do is we are trying to manage our workbook, instead of where you have monthly separate and not calculate. No. So we are going to do, what we are going to do is, so I call this working one. So calc one. So which means we are going to have our calculation below, and we have our financial statement output above. I hope we get that, so that we know that from our output we just focus on quarterly, annually, and the whole thing. But calculations will be on what? Will be on monthly basis, right? Which means we are now going to also have our financial statements above it. So the section below, everything calculation will be done below it. The monthly financial statements would be shown above. I hope we get that. I hope we get that. So now your own activity now is this, in fact, which we already have in here. So you are going to just, all you need to do is preset your financial statements. For example, copy my income statement here, come down here. Okay, yeah, so I can create it like this. Okay, then make sure you so what basically what you are doing is you are presetting your 3 financial statements. Now it's already 2 o'clock. Should I go ahead and create the 3 financial statements so that you can recreate it, or I should let you guys do that on your own? It's already 2 o'clock, all right? 2 hours session. What do you guys think? Should we do it together now? I always like to keep to time, right? So, or should be part of your own tasks to do on your own. Yeah, I know you guys might have plans for other things and all, right? So basically, okay, I think you guys should be able to do that on your own. Yeah, no. So what I'm asking you to do is, you can see you have these income statements, you have the balance sheet, and you have the cash flow. Okay, all right. All you just need to do is create a blank financial statement that link to each other and automatically balance on its own. Simple. Create a blank 3 financial statement. You already have the structure here. Okay, so all you need to do is create a blank 3 financial statements. For example, I have my revenue, and I know that, let me copy this format, put it here. Okay, so my total revenue, just put my formula sum, that's be my revenue. Okay, guys are saying I should continue. Some are saying they will do it on their own. You see that we live in a very, very dynamic world, right? Okay, so let's just create this. So my gross profit is equal to my sum. So remember the reason why we are using sum, because we are sure that, okay, we are using a positive and a negative. So this should be plus. You can even have this just to make it look good. Okay. So they said you guys should calm down. You guys are saying we should not do it now. So direct, just you being professional, this, at least for this design, this one that I'm doing. Okay, then personal expenses will be less. Selling general admin expenses, deduct that. Total, total operating expenses, do we even need to separate that? At least let's present for presentation purposes. No. So let's remove this guy and go straight to EBITDA. depreciation and amortization. Do you have intangible assets? No. So why? So let's just call this depreciation only. Oh no, sorry. They're supposed to have. Well, that's part of the fact. So we assume they don't have a proper account for now, because yeah, more like a software company. So how come you don't have intangible assets? Okay. So all I'm doing is just creating a blank reset financial statement that automatically balance. So what we are trying to achieve is at every point, our financial statement must always balance. That's the number one rule when you are trying to build this kind of model. You are saying, no, you want to wait to the end before you set up your financial statement. might not, might not. Okay, yeah. So we can always add any line item that we need. We can always add that as we start the model view. So we are assuming, oh, the purpose of the model is they want to get a debt to be able to finance their business expansion. So we can always fact. I think that's a very good point. So after EBITDA, so let's have our operating. So let's have our operating income. So operating profits. Thanks for that point. So yes, we have this. And below operating income, let's have their interest income. Then less interest expense. So let at least we are saying the purpose as to why they need this model is because of they want to raise funding debt. Okay, I'll list that's equal to sum. Update my formula. And yes, so for my balance sheet. So let me go to the historical. Just copy the balance sheet. In fact, we can decide to change our own structure of balance sheet. So let's call this assets. Total assets comes like this. And my liabilities. Should we put liabilities and equity together? Let's separate those two guys. Right, so liabilities and equities. Equity. Is it equities or equity? Okay, so I think you can have it. So total equity and liabilities, yes. You have this. No need to be all those separate things. We are not doing financial reporting. Okay, so expect this equal to sum. That's 3. Sum everything up. Then here, sum everything up as well. Okay, and I can build my balance check here. Balance check. So we still have one pending part that we need to do. And here is equal to, so equal to if, now absolute formula is to come in here. If this guy minus this guy, right? So basically we are saying any difference must always return itself back to positive if it is lesser than our tolerance level, right? It should give us 0. If not, it should give us 1. Enter, copy that across, right? So basically we're saying if then absolute. So at times you can have negative and just kind of cancel each other. So that's why we use this absolute to make sure that everything return itself back to positive, right? It's lesser than tolerance. We imputed our tolerance as positive value. Then should give us this. Then I can format this guy. Remember what we did when we have the actual. So if it is 0, So if it is positive, you should make it. So I'm going to put my red here. So red, if you return positive, then it should give us error. Error. But if it is positive, it should give us in blue as okay. And click on this. So what have I done wrong? Okay, no, not you. So click on okay. So at least using this formatting most times is always good because it's kind of help to reduce the conditional formatting, having to just making your file heavy unnecessarily. If you look at the size of my document so far, I think here we are still on 87 kilobytes now. Because I moved that workbook from that thing, I think I need to break. So it came with a link. So let me break that link. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So it's always good check so that your file does not have external link. So I had to break that. Okay. Now for the cash flow, let me also go back. Okay, yeah. So now I'm just going to sum this guy up. I'll still copy that same formatting here. Now let me edit. So instead of mine, I'll just sum the whole entire row. Sum the whole entire row so that we have this. And this is what we feed into our checklist. We are still going to build a checklist. Or at least let's take it a step at a time for now. Yeah, for the cash flow, what do we have here? So let me copy this. Come here and I'll paste this. Okay, now let me. Right. So check here. Just copy this guy. I can paste it here. Okay. So I think you can complete the whole thing now that you understand what we need to do. So you go ahead, preset your workbook such that one, we link your retained earnings. So maybe we can create a retained earnings schedule here. So I call this retain earnings. Okay, then I'm going to have my opening balance. Opening balance. Do we have to should we create that in here? Because actually I just want our profits account to give us that look. So don't let's build the retain earnings here. So I think we can build that in one of our schedule down here. I'll just call this my retain earnings. Retain earnings, and here we can have my opening balance, net. So add net profit in the period. Then we deduct dividend declared. It should be dividend declared, but let's just assume everything we go through cash dividend declared, and we can have our closing balance. Right. So my currency. Okay. Then put my structure in here. Opening balance here. Ending balance. So we still need for the summation here, we need to. So the summation here will not be like a direct sum, but let's leave that against the next session. Just do it like this for now. All right. So which means I can link my net profit here. Link the net profit, link it here. Okay. Right. Do my cash flow and make sure that everything is working perfectly. For example, I'll make sure my profits before tax. Okay. Seems I'm ending up doing everything, which I don't want to do. But yeah, it's part of it. Okay, so just sum everything up here. Go to sum. Okay, my cash flow from then cash flow from financing. Sum everything under it. Okay, then here. So my beginning cash, go to previous period balance, then my cash, and then cash will be my beginning plus this, then cash in the period, cash from operation plus investing. Maybe we should just create a space for okay. And this will flow like so. This cash will come straight to my cash flow statements like this, and then cash balance. Okay, then my profits before tax, link that here. My depreciation, which should be minus my depreciation here, enter. Then my tax for now, we still need to create this schedule for tax, but let's just put this, let's just link this directly to the tax for now. I can copy this across. So my retained earnings, just link that straight to the schedule below. And all I need to do is if I put revenue of particular value here, I expect my balance sheet to still balance. So you can see. So which means at every point, our balance sheet must always balance. So as we are doing a calculation for one line item, you link it. If it does not balance, we quickly go back and check what's happening, what's gone wrong. Okay, so you can check. I can add my cost of sales minus maybe 250, and I also expect my balance sheet to also be what to still balance. Okay, so that's what we need you to do against our next session next week. All right, so sorry about to take additional time, and this is where we're going to call it a session. Right, so thank you everyone, and I hope you had fun. At times learning can be very, very interesting, but yeah, we just have to make those sacrifices. So please, let's try and be professional. Look at the structure, look at how I'm approaching it, right? It's just part of the global practice of the thing. So yes, at least on these points, let's call it a session. Then next week, we then start. We already have our historical now, right? And we can start building from there against the next session. So yeah, next session, I believe we should be able to do, let's say next week, Saturday. Yeah, you will get an email. But now, getting invite for the next session, you need to complete this and send it to me, to my email. Please. I'm sure you got think okay, so maybe some people might be like, what's your email? We don't know your email. I'm sure you should know. Yes, I believe. Right. So yes, now let me leave the mic open. If you have questions, if you have any contribution, as I said, please, you can also make use of the chat box if it's just a short question. Yeah, I'm going to share the recording. I already promised you guys. You know, if I don't want to do something, I would have told you guys from the from the onset. So yeah, you definitely get the recording immediately after the session. Yes, once it's ready, I will just go to my YouTube channel. Yes, it will be. Look out on my YouTube channel, please. You will I will upload it on my YouTube channel, so you don't need to do any follow up. So said, I'm sure you all have access to my YouTube channel. So let me see if I can drop my channel's link. So I will drop it immediately. It's ready. Just look out, check my YouTube channel. I'm going to drop that, so we don't need to even send a message. And should we be flexible on the color? Yes, you can be flexible on the color, but please don't send it. But no, please, let's stick with this color for now. Right, let's stick with this color for now. Let's keep it as blue mix, blue and black mix. Yes. Do I have a lecture on startup? So please, as I said, this is level 3, which I know can be high level. Some people didn't get to join level 1 and level 2. So what I've done is I already uploaded that on my YouTube channel. Not sure why my system decides to be slow this afternoon about this. Well, it's one of those things. So yeah, so you have my playlist. You go to the playlist. Okay, not sure this is. Let me go to my YouTube studio. Yeah. Yeah, so you can go to my content, then you can go to the playlists. So under the playlists, I've created that. So you can see level 1. So you can see mentorship program, level 1 financial modeling for startup. The mentorship program level 2 corporate model. Please kindly include the historical data as I join late. So if you join late, please go to created the drive where you can always access. It's also part of the mail invite. You guys don't used to read your email. Please. When you were registering, it was I stated see the link, but let me drop that in the chat box for us again. All right, so thank you everyone, and I hope you had fun. All right, so I hope it was a great experience. So please, if you can also share some of the few learning points with people online so that they can know that yes, we are doing something great in here. I also appreciate that. So yes, this is where we are. So what we've done today, we've set up our workbook, right? Set up our domain workbook with the timeline and key constant data. We imported the data from our clients down in here, and we have our started setting up our inputs and our calculations. Then next session, we'll pick things up from there. So thank you everyone, and let's make sure we enjoy the rest of the evening. If you have any question, clarification, I will just stay back so that you can ask. No, this is not the room we'll be using for that session. So as I said, try to complete your activity. Make sure you send it to me, and then we can pick things up from there. So we don't just want to be just pouring water on tin here, right? So we just need to be sure that yes, as you are doing it, you are also learning. You are doing it as well. So make sure you try to complete, build this, and share a copy with me, and that will give you the pass to the next session, which will be likely next week. Okay. So you have tomorrow to just make time like 1 hour plus tomorrow on your home and replicate what we've done. All right. So if you have any question, I'll just stay back for some minutes so that you can go ahead and ask before we call it a